This video is to help guide you with the presentation research assignment. So in order to support you in the development of your PowerPoints and your final presentations, we have introduced a new assignment, which we discussed in class last time. So this assignment is really just getting you to put together your research and to work on your citations. And then you will be able to use the information from this assignment to create your PowerPoints. If your group has already done your PowerPoint, then you can use the information that you've used there in order to complete this assignment. So in order to access the information about the assignment, you have two locations where you're going to find information. The first place you might find information would be in the instructor assessments area, where you're going to find the assignment itself. It will have the documents as well as the instructions. The other place you're going to find it is I've been creating these weekly folders, and I am releasing them on Blackboard that will help organize the information on Blackboard based off of the topics that we covered in class. So for example, last week we covered CVs and registration. So if you followed the link for last week, April 5th through April 9th, you would find that information here. This week, we started off with CVs, and then we are going to finish the week with a project workday where you'll be working on your presentation research assignment. So for this week, we have our link in the menu, and then this is what we see. So it has the week overview that we reviewed last class. If I click into the CV folder, you're going to find the worksheet for task 1 and task 2 that we looked at during class. You're going to find a link to the submission for the CV and the class recording in case you need to review it. I've also put another link for the CV assignment. I feel like there's links everywhere just to try and help you make sure you can get to the final submission page. And then I also have a folder for later on this week, and there's a link to turn in the presentation research assignment here. But if I go into the April 16th folder, I've already uploaded some documents that may prove helpful. So the first one is going to be your presentation research worksheet. You're going to need to download this, and we'll be using it in class in order to complete the assignment. We'll look at this worksheet in just a moment. The other thing I've already uploaded is an example of a completed worksheet. This may prove helpful if you're struggling with a certain area. So let's look at that worksheet. So the presentation research assignment is meant to just help you start preparing your PowerPoint. And it's meant to really help your group communicate who's doing what and ensure that everyone is doing their work ahead of time. So let's look at the worksheet. So it has some instructions on page 1 that help guide you on how to complete each section. There's also a link to that same completed assignment here. This assignment is an individual assignment, so every student will be turning it in with just their research inside of it. And then this will be worth 8% of your course grade, and at the end of this video, we will talk about how it is graded. So let's scroll down. There are 3 parts to the worksheet. Part 1 is about the project information, and questions 1 through 3 should be answered in conjunction with your group. So question 1, what is your topic? Question 2, what is your group's research question that they've been working on for the project? And question 3, what area of the research requirement will you be completing individually? I'm asking that you highlight the areas that you're responsible for, such as what you see on your screen. This is where you really will need to coordinate with your groups to make sure that only one person is touching on each requirement. And then question 4 is for you as an individual. What sources are you using? Just go ahead and give the links so they can be accessed easily. Okay, so part 1 is done. Part 1 is easy. Part 2 is about your actual research. So here in the white box, you are literally going to create your content for your slides. So you're going to use your sources that you have found in order to answer your part, which was highlighted in question 3. And you're going to start creating your content. You're going to summarize the information, you're going to paraphrase it, and you're going to include in-text citations. Now please note, every time you change sources, you should be changing or adding your in-text citations so you can tell exactly where the information has come from. Now what we've done is we have also built in some links to resources to help you. So if you click this blue link, it's going to take you to the in-text style guide, which will show you how to do in-text citations based on different sources, based on if you are paraphrasing versus quoting. Remember, that differs a little bit. And what to do if you do not have an author. So it is there to guide you. Part 3. Part 3 is where you're going to create your full text citations that would be at the end of the presentation or at the end of a paper. So in order to do this, you are going to create a reference page for the research that you have typed up and included in Part 2. I have gone ahead and included references on the top of your page. So once you complete Part 2, create a full text reference for each source, and then you will practice doing the formatting. These references will be able to be copy-pasted into your final reference list, which will be submitted on the 24th, and will also be used at the end of your presentation on your reference slide. Now please note that there is a specific way to do each type of reference that we covered in class. A book has a particular style versus an online newspaper has a different style. How to do each of these can be found using the APA Citation Style Guide, which is linked here. And there will also be additional videos available on Blackboard in the APA folder. Now, even reference lists have formatting guidelines, such as they need to be double-spaced, you need to include hanging indents, citations should be organized A to Z, and so all of that information is linked here with the reference list formatting guide in order to help guide you on how to style your reference list. So once you add in your citations, you should format it to include double spacing, hanging indent, and appropriate text. Also, do not forget that certain elements of your citation, such as volume numbers and titles of publications, i.e. newspapers, websites, books, need to be in italics. And that is the end of the assignment. So it is a very short assignment. And then hopefully you can understand how part 2 will go into your presentation as far as your slides. It's really just making your slides. And then part 3 is writing your citations. And again, you will be able to just copy paste those into your reference list as well as your PowerPoint, of course with some revisions first. So once you turn it in, I will make it my priority in order to grade it before any other assignments or items. And the reason why is I want you to get your feedback so you can spend the next week editing your presentations, putting them together, and recording them before submitting them on the 24th. So how this assignment will be graded, 10% of your grade is going to be completing all of the questions in part 1. Please note, what I'm looking for is that you've given full answers, that you've given your links. So this is a very easy element to complete. Part 2 can be graded based off of the quality of your research. So did you use the required number of sources? Are your sources credible? If you have a question about the credibility of your source, you should ask before using it. So if you are collecting your resources, class time would be a great time on Thursday in order to review those with me if there are sources you are unclear about. Please note .education, .government, and journals are the most credible sources. Below those you might find organizations, but you do need to review the organization to make sure that it is a credible one, as there are many in the world. Another part of the grading for part 2 is the use of in-text citations. So did you use them appropriately? Did you use the right information as far as were you able to use the quoting versus paraphrasing rules. If your source did not have an author, did you follow the appropriate guidelines that are linked in the style guide? And so 50% of your grade is actually centered in part 2. So part 2 is an area where you would want to spend some time. Part 3 was writing your reference list. So 20% of your grade will be based off of the full text citations if they are written correctly. And then 10% of your grade will be based on formatting of the reference list. And here you can see what are the things that I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to be looking to see if your references are in the correct order, if they are the correct type of reference, if they have been hanging indented, meaning that lines 2, 3, 4 are inside half of an inch. If you need an example of this, please look on Blackboard in the APA Week folder, and you will see a guide on how to do this. And then 4, is it double spaced? You do not need to worry about margins for this assignment. And number 5, is it the correct font and size? So these are the same grading guidelines that are used on your final presentation. So we've applied them for this assignment in order to make sure that I'm supporting you and helping guide you on how to develop your items prior to your big project grade. And then 10% of your grade is on citation usability, meaning for all of your citations in the reference list, I can find the in-text citation and vice versa, and that they are usable. So I'm able to easily identify where you've borrowed all of your information. And please note that unless something is common knowledge, meaning something most people just know off the top of their head, you need to provide a citation for where you've taken that information. Now, my recommendation to you would be to make sure that in this part 2 area that you go ahead and take advantage of the opportunity for feedback and include all of the research that you're going to be including on your slides. That way it will be reviewed, your citations will be checked, and you can practice when to cite and when to not cite. So that's an overview of the assignment. I'm actually really excited about this assignment and how it's turned out because I think it is very developmental for you and really will help with your final grades on the project, especially with the application of APA and it being correct. If you have any questions, please remember that I have office hours throughout the week and you will have class time in order to discuss.